Hi, good morning, folks. Today on Free Field Training, we are looking at Shieldbox again. It's August of 2019, and we're going to see what is inside Shieldbox for this month. So, Shieldbox sends me this subscription service box every month. It's about $50 a month, and it comes with a bunch of law enforcement related tactical gear stuff. So, it's kind of like a gear tasting type of thing for $50 a month, give or take. You get a bunch of stuff and you get to see whether you like it or not. Then you keep all the stuff. So basically, how this works is they're buying large quantities of this stuff so they can get it at a cheaper price and give it to you. So they say that it's always more than $50 worth of stuff every month. That's if you were to go out and buy it. We'll see what's in it, and then you can make the decision whether or not you think it's worth getting a Shieldbox subscription. So there's a link and coupon code and all of that down in the description. Also, before we start, I like to thank 22 Lifeguard from Instagram. Their link's down below. Sent me a can of Ballistol because I said I'd never tried it before. And they were like, oh, I got to send it to you. This stuff's great. So we're going to give that a shot for gun cleaning. Without further ado, let's open it up. This is the Stat Gear Ossis, I think. I got from one of the previous Shield boxes. So this is the card that tells you what all is inside of it. You can freeze frame that if you want to get all their descriptions and stuff. It says the total estimated value is $93.87. Oh, there's a knife in here. Well, that's a plus. So CRKT Bantam Compact Folding Knife. Forget all the rest of this. We're going straight to the knife. All right. Pop that puppy out of there. The CRKT Bantam. It's a frame lock on the liner, so you can see it's one of the sides of the frame that locks in as a liner lock. That's pretty, it's a pretty stout lock actually here. Gotta get in there so you guys can see it. It's a pretty thick piece. If you take comparison with the Stat Gear knife, the lock it's got on it is kind of normal for a cheaper knife. That's a pretty cool lock. The hole there looks like it's about 2.5 inches. One side is like a G10 and the other side is metal. Pretty cool, actually. It seems like the type of thing I would carry around because it's not super tactical, but look at that. You can choke all the way up right next to the blade there. Really get in there. And it looks like you can carry it either tip up or tip down with the little clip. So that's not bad. It says it's $36.95. That's actually a really good price. I might have just bought one of these. Had I known it was only $36. That's pretty cool. And it closes pretty easy. Look at how thick that blade is. Here. That's a thick blade, especially for a little knife like that. But it isn't super heavy. Maybe weigh about the same. This would be really good for carving with that nice curved blade on it. Alright. I already feel like I didn't get cheated. Let's see what else is in here. A t-shirt. Seems to be a big thing with these boxes is sending you a t-shirt. They ask for your size, so I always get them in large. What's this? Without justice, courage is weak. And of course, it's got a little American flag thing on the side there. And then their logo on the other side. Cool. Little lightweight black cotton t-shirt. Not like I wear those just because people send them to me. And what else? Garment antimicrobial spray. Naturally eliminates microbes from clothing, kills odor-causing bacteria. Sounds like body armor spray to me. It's non-GMO and vegan, like you're going to eat it. Biodegradable, cruelty-free, and non-toxic. How does it work then? Active ingredients, citric acid. So you spray yourself with orange juice. I don't know. We'll have to try this though on my body armor. It stinks pretty fast from the summertime here. Thank God I don't live down south. Window center punch. All right, so this, oh sorry, this GarmaGuard stuff, they say it's $12.99. There is a window center punch. Whoop. From EMI. So it's only $7.99. Oh, it's not a bad price just for a center punch anyway. So, like, for breaking windows, it's also really good for machine work. So you take this and you put it to the corner of the window and just push in, and it busts the window out. The other thing these are really good for is if you're going to do drilling of steel, you put this down, especially freehand drilling. You punch a little tiny hole in the steel, so it makes a little divot, and then you put the drill bit on that so it doesn't go walking all the way around when you're trying to cut steel. So it would be better if this had a pocket clip, especially for our purposes, be able to put it into a vest, but I'm sure you find a way to carry it around. So that's pretty cool. Actual gear for police work. Field interview notebook portage. Field interview, the public safety professional field interview / incident report notebook. I'm going to be honest. I've never found a whole lot of use for these types of things. So on the inside, it's got Miranda and Dunaway warning. If found, please contact, in case you want people to actually return your notebook. And then inside, it's like a book of old police report forms. We used to have these at the station. Back when we did paper reports. So on the front, it's got, your date, time. Oh, it's basically the setup that I showed you on my note-taking video, except it gives you little boxes for all of it, so you don't forget anything. I guess if you have a problem with forgetting things. Now, I'm going to give this one quick caveat, is that look at the size of this thing. So basically, if you're walking around, it's the size of what we would call here a Y or a P ticket, like a parking ticket or a mover violation ticket. See it up here next to my coffee cup. It's pretty big, or next to this knife here. This will make more sense, right? Like, it's a big notebook. It's not like a little notepad you can stick in your pocket. So I guess if you were going to walk around with a metal or a leather ticket book in your pocket, and that's how you carry it around, this would make sense, but this is huge. I can't imagine getting out, unless you're going to put this into the cargo pocket of a pair of pants, getting out and carrying this around. Interesting. If anybody can think of a use for this, where they would carry it, I'd love to hear about it. And a hollow point gear Velcro PVC patch. And that looks like that's it, other than a bunch of, the bag from the center punch and a bunch of cards. So this is from Hollow Point Gear. It looks what they make is like jewelry type of things out of old shell casings. And then there's a card from Relentless Defender with different types of shirts that they have. And then, oh, look at that, a coupon code for Relentless Defender. And then GarmaGuard sent their little fork. So here, in case everybody wants to freeze frame this, I know there's people out there that like it. Bam, 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 bam. Now you can read at your leisure. And that's everything that's in the box. And now we're going to take some comments and questions from people. Take a closer look at stuff if people want to take a closer look at any of it. Well, I got you here live streaming. And then I'll move on my way. I got to do the rain gutter regatta with the Cub Scouts today. Let's pull you guys in closer here. Oh, that's better. Now I can actually see what's going on. Let's scroll up to the top. See what everybody has to say. Everybody's saying hi, 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 hey. What's going on? Just open it. Hey, I'm sorry. I gotta do all the pre-roll stuff while everybody's still coming in. Plus, if you've noticed, if you ever come back and watch the live streams later, oftentimes they'll cut like a couple minutes off the front of the live stream. I think they go by where their volume goes up and auto cut it. So if I just say a little something, sometimes it'll cut all the way to where I'm like, and now we're opening the box. And I'm like, oh, come on, man. I lost everything that I said. So for YouTube reasons, I have to talk for like a minute and a half before I start opening the box. Otherwise, it could cut off opening the box and the first couple things that I had. And I've had that happen before, which is why I like dual record these. Sometimes I'll live stream and I'll be recording at the same time in case that happens. Can you take questions at the end? Yeah, that's kind of what we do here. Otherwise, I wouldn't be live streaming. If I didn't want to talk to you guys, I wouldn't be live streaming. You see me live streaming? Put comments and questions in there. Got to get the knife. Knives. It's always great when you get a subscription box type of thing for tactical stuff. They put a good mid-tier knife in it. I never feel like I got cheated, right? Because this is listed at $36, but if I had paid $50 and got this, I wouldn't feel cheated, at least until I looked up what the price of it was, right? So, hey, everybody doing subscription boxes, here's free advice. Good mid-tier knife. And CRKT, it's a pretty good. This is the same brand of knife that I carry when I'm working. Jerry8696 says, I have one of those. It's a good knife. Cool. I'm going to start carrying it around today. This is going with me today. We're going to cut some boats up with it. Or we'll fix some boats with it. Commissioner Skipper says, can I have a pair of cuffs? Yeah, go buy them. They're like $25. Handcuffs are not expensive. They're easy to find. Hey, cool shirt. Love the videos. Glad you like it. Cadet SSG Coleman DUA cadets. Mike DeCott made a post about that. About what? About this thing? Or about this thing? Or about this thing? Or about a t-shirt brand? Gotta get some context. Give me some context. I'd rather use something like that rather than something with C8 in it. Okay? Commissioner Skipper says, I use my baton. Oh, instead of the window punch? Yeah. I'm always big on multi-use tools. And here was my thing with Leatherman a while back. Right? Multi-tool companies that make stuff for tactical use, for cops and stuff like that, they come out with these multi-tools that have a bunch of tools on them that we are never going to use. But people buy them. Right? If you wanted a good multi-tool for police work, it would have a center punch on it, because then I would have a center punch, because it'd be like, oh, it's right here on my Leatherman. Boonk. Right? But instead, we get the Leatherman mutt that's got a seatbelt cutter, which we ain't ever going to use, and a pair of pliers, which we might use, and in the plier jaw, instead of having wire cutters, which we might actually use, you know, because people like wire their fence closed, and you just be like, boop, and cut it. No. They give me a blasting clap crimper. Come on, dude. Come on. Who is using a blasting cap crimper? And they're like, oh, we've got this bronze scraper for when you're cleaning guns. Dude, no one's using the bronze scraper. Give me a center punch. Give me one knife that's long and thin, right, that I can get from the outside, and then give me another one that's serrated and like a sheep's foot blade for rescue cutting. That doesn't have to be a seatbelt cutter, but like, oh, somebody has this piece of twine tied around themselves really tight, and I can get it under there and cut it off. Or maybe, instead of the pliers, you do one that's like shears. I don't know, just throwing out ideas of stuff that you might actually use in police work. And then normal screwdrivers and stuff for fixing things around the car that you're supposed to wait for the department to do, but aren't going to. Commissioner Skipper says, I want those notebooks. All right, here, I'll give you the contact info. There it is. You want to freeze frame that and get their contact info and get one. Tier Talk put $4.99 in the donut fund. Thank you. It says, Tommy, coffee on me. You're very welcome. There's a link to Tier Talk's channel down in the description. Go click on it. If you're interested in being a correctional officer at all, go click on it. He's got lots of good info there. MacGyver says, sweatshirt pocket for this. This is really big. I don't know that I have any pockets that are big enough to hold this other than like a cargo pocket on my pants. Derek Schmidt says put the notebook under your vest for extra padding. I would think maybe if you wear a like a concealed vest and it's got a plate pocket and you don't put a plate in it, at least not a large plate, you could probably drop this into the plate pocket. In fact, I think this would fit in the center plate pocket of a point blank vest. They've got the one that's only, it's like 4x8 plates or 5x8 plates, and you could drop that down there and then like reach in your shirt and pull it out. Or if you're one of those detectives that likes, but if you're a detective, you shouldn't need like a pre-filled out form to know what you're supposed to need. I mean, that's the whole idea of being a detective. It could fit in there. I'm just saying it's a really big notebook. I would be much more excited about this for new people or security that doesn't have to take down information all the time for reports. Like if you're at a pretty slow site and you're like, it would slip my mind. I don't do it every day. I could see this being really useful if it was, say, that size. It's the size of a normal notebook, and each of these took up 2 pages. That would make a lot of sense to me, because you'd be like, oh, put this in your pocket. If something happens, pull it out, and then you just go through the motions, right? Just write down the information as it's placed on here. But in this size format, I can't imagine people carrying it around. Hey, Mike. I'm in my favorite YouTuber. Keep up the good work. I'm not Mike the Cop. I'm prettier than that, man. GRE 8696 says, Tommy, Safe Life saved my life last night. I took 2 rounds of 40 to the chest on a traffic stop last night. Oh, that sucks. That sucks no matter what you're wearing. You should contact them. I bet you they'd love to hear that story. Might even get some free swag out of it. I mean, that'll make up for the deductible, or what is it, the copay at the emergency room. King Aragon 2 says, did your higher up tell you to stream? Stream. Oh no. I do live streams if I want to talk to you guys, and a lot of times with things like this where it's timely. Otherwise, if I did, like, hey, what's inside Shieldbox, it would take you 3 weeks to get it if it was in my editing, like my editing stack. So doing a live stream is a way to get information out to you, like, immediately, which is why I live stream. Brad White says, thanks for your help and advice. You're very welcome. Sean Costo says, I just got my offer letter from my local sheriff's office. I start the academy on the 19th. Love your videos. Glad you like them. Stay safe, man. Colin Eggleston says, what's a good place to start to be a cop? Where you live is a good place to start. You're going to want to either get you got to get a high school diploma, right? And then you're going to want to go either to college or to the military, because you got to eat that time between being 18 and graduating high school and 21 and starting to be a cop. And realistically, more like 22 or 23 before you actually get a job. So you might as well do something productive with your life, and it's going to make you look like a better candidate anyway, even if they don't require it. So either go to college or go to the military, and if you're going to college, get a good age-appropriate job. It's very hard to come into police work, like leaving high school, then getting a factory job or something, then becoming a cop later. It's a difficult road to toe, so I don't suggest people do it. If you are going to have to do that because of your financial situation, suggest going to community college so they look, oh, he's still in college, he's still in school. Even if you're just taking 1 class a semester, he's still trying to better himself, because at the end of the day, that's what a lot of departments are looking for. They have their minimum requirements, but once you meet those minimum requirements, you're saying, okay, who's the person that's trying to better themselves, trying to be a better person? That's where you got to start. I've got boatloads of videos about becoming a cop. My hand hurts says, I told my brother on the NYPD about your giveaway. All right, so the big giveaway with the body armor and the weapon light and the gift card and the boots and all that stuff, all of that, I am literally cutting up the little names in the next couple of days. So I printed a whole bunch of them up to a couple of days ago, and then I'm printing the ones from the last couple of days, and I'm cutting them up and putting them into a bucket. But it's a process. There's like 5,000 comments, and each one of those needs to be cut up individually for me to hand it to pull it out of the bucket. I could do one where it just like gives me a random generated number and I count down and that's the winner, but I think that's kind of a cheesy cheap way out. Nobody wants to see that. So we're going to cut them up like we always did. Plus, that's the way everybody knows. I'm not I'm not gaming it so one person wins. Like, here's all the names in the bucket, and you can watch me pull it out. We're working on that. It is coming. MacGyver says, if you put your question in caps, it helps. I think I'm going to just not answer anyone's questions in caps anymore. My hands hurt says you, the ass cups are $60 each. No, they're not. You can find them online for 40. They're not $60 each. Find them in. I've seen them in stores for $45. If you're not paying shipping and you're getting them locally and it's just the normal ass cuffs, you're not going to pay that much. Nathaniel Burst says, where do I get Shieldbox? There's a link down below. There's a coupon code to save like $5 or something too. So go down to the link, you get it online. Colin Eggleston, what's a good place to start to be a cop in Michigan? I don't know. You gotta look up Michigan's requirements. Justin Gaw says, Leatherman Raptor shears have a few decent tools that could be used for various things in police work. I use mine all the time. I've looked at those. They don't really have a lot of options for stuff that I would use. Like, the shears, I guess, would be interesting to have, but then I could just carry a pair of shears because shears are really light and disposable, which is nice. But they don't have, like, a whole lot of, like, the stuff that I use every day at work. So, little tiny scissors I use every day at work, different sized Phillips and flathead screwdrivers I use all the time at work. So, a lot of that stuff just isn't on there. Ben says, is that your Chase Bank logo? Well, this is Safe Life Defense logo because I got like 60 of their t-shirts, and that's the Shieldbox logo. So, whichever one you're talking about. Matthew Lopez says, hey Tom, you ever used a SOG Power Assist multi-tool? You can customize and replace the tools to your liking, and I couldn't imagine a day at work without it. I have. I used to have one way back in the day because those came out a long time ago, and those are the ones with the gears that multiply the force that you can put down on the pliers. It's all well and good until you get sand in it, and I used to camp a lot in areas that had sand. In fact, I still do, because we got Indiana Dunes like 20 minutes from me. And those don't do so hot with sand. So I've kind of just stopped using those, because you get sand into the gears and it's over. They're cool tools. Jack Thompson says, what brand of handcuffs you prefer? I normally use Smith & Wessons. They fit in almost everything. The techniques that you can use with them, the deployment and all of that. And that's what most people have around me, so it's easier to use what everyone else is using, especially when you're teaching new people how to use handcuffs. And being a handcuffing instructor, that's important. I have to be able to have something that's like commonality with what everybody else is using. If I came with something, the Hyatt rigid cuffs, I love those, but if I came to a training with that and show people how to use them, how does that help those people? Because they don't have those cuffs. Gabriel Romero says, your live streams are great. Glad you like it. Fully recommend Write in the Rain notepads and pens. Write in the Rain, I've got a couple of those. I like those. I like them for camping more than I do police work. Because for police work, if it gets wet, I just throw it away. It doesn't make sense to spend all that extra money when I get those little pads for like 75 cents. If I play my cards right at Walgreens, 75 cents, I find them on sale and buy like 10 of them. Kresinko Boy says, keep safe, brother. Do more patrol car videos and also maybe another patrol rifle video builds. For example, what to have on my rifle and what to stay away from. I do that real easy. On a patrol rifle, you need a sling. You need it to have a legit carrier and barrel. So you're going to want a chrome line barrel, because if it's going to sit in the car all day, rain, shine, you're going to be out on calls, it's going to get soaking wet. You're standing outside and it gets rained on. You don't want the thing rusting up. So you're going to need it from a legit company. My suggestions would be Colt, Rock River. Smith & Wesson's doing all right these days. There's lots of them that do really well. SIG does a decent AR-15s for patrol work. So you're going to want something with a chrome line barrel, 1 in 9 twist, realistically, because you don't know what ammo the department's going to issue you with. So you want one that'll use heavy and light bullets fairly well. You're going to want iron sights or backup iron sights and a red dot. And the red dot you're going to want from a actual good manufacturer. So Aimpoint, EOTech if you're in a pinch. I'm sure there's others. You get a loopholed one or something like that. But you're going to want a good optic. You don't want that going down. And you need a light. And not necessarily in that order. But I wouldn't use a patrol rifle that didn't have a sling, at least iron sights, and a good light on it. That's my take. And I'd want it from like a real company, not, you know, Anderson or something. Or definitely do not build a rifle in your garage for police work. That is for playing around at the range. Do not build your own rifle. That's dumb. That's something that, and don't buy a rifle that Bubba or somebody's friend that builds rifles built for you, unless that friend works for a major manufacturer and has access to those parts. Because what you end up with is some guy goes and like to cheaper than dirt and gets all of the cheapest components he possibly can and then cobbles them together for you and doesn't put it together properly, doesn't stake the carrier key, like nothing, doesn't stake the gas key, like does nothing proper on it, and then hands it to you, and then you're going to bet your life on it. No, you would never buy cars that way. if you're, oh, my buddy, he builds cars in his garage, you can build it and then use it at work, you would never use that car. So why do you do that with rifles? McGyver says, I hope I win, but it's nice to see that everyone has a chance. Everybody has a chance. I love your videos, bro. Big inspiration. He helps me prepare. You're welcome. Brad White says, thinking of getting into law enforcement, got 5 years of emergency security management dealing with crime scenes, arsons in general, Ontario Fire Marshal's Office. What can I do to get into it? See, I don't know about Canada, so you're going to have to work at specifically, if you're trying to be a cop in Canada, that's not my thing. I've never even been to Canada. You have to find out from people up there what you have to do to be a cop in Canada. I'm not just going to pontificate on it if I don't know anything about it. Commissioner Skipper says, what gun holster do you recommend? I recommend Safariland's SLS or ALS series holsters. Not the new 7TS thing, because the bodies have a tendency to crack if there's no gun in it and you fall on it. Well, that's not pleasant. I've seen a couple of cases of that already with new guys that buy them at work. But they're older ones. The STX versions, fantastic. And that's what I use at work. Edward Harold Butler says, good day from Newfoundland, Canada. Hello from Chicago. Tier Talk says, thanks for sending the love, Tommy. Big fan of your channel. Hey, big fan of your channel, too. I've been on Tier Talk a couple of times. We've done some crossover stuff between the channels. Marshall Paul says, you look better with the beard. I know. Covers most of my face. It helps. Pot Drop and Roll says, recommended degree for being a cop, business, finance, communications. I recommend anything that you are actually thinking about doing if police work doesn't work out, which it doesn't for many, many people. So it's no sense in getting a degree in finance if you're not going into that field, business if you're not going to be a businessman. Get something in a field that you're going to be able to use to get a job immediately if you're not going to be a cop. Andrew Brown says, did you just say you'd take Aimpoint over EOTech? If so, then why? Every day of the week, twice on Sundays, I would take Aimpoint over EOTech. It's a better optic all around. They are more durable. The batteries last longer. They don't have any issues with thermal shift of their zero, even in extreme conditions, which for some people is an issue and for some people it isn't. I understand that. Where I'm at, our temperatures can go from negative 30 up to positive 120 here in Chicago, so thermal shift at extreme temperatures could actually be an issue. They seal up better. They don't get snow and ice stuck in them. They don't have a big, ridiculous reticle with a dot in the middle of it. It's just a dot, which is my preference. I'd prefer to have a 2 or a 1 MOA dot because it's more precise. Other reasons that I don't like EOTech. Oh, everyone else loved them for a long time, really for no reason, because they thought they looked cool because they were on Call of Duty and because the military was using them. I've used a lot of the optics. I like Aimpoint. I've never had a bad experience with them. I have every optic that I've ever owned from Aimpoint, and they all still work. And once a year, I change the batteries, and that's actually too often. I don't have the batteries go out on me. It's fantastic. And EOTech's got little buttons on the side, and anytime you introduce a little button, you're introducing a failure point with the optic, a place where water can ingress. I haven't had really good luck with them. You can't seal them up. They just, if you're going to have something that you're going to put in a car and leave there, or put in your locker and take from your locker to the car, locker to the car, locker to the car, something that's likely going to be in car accidents that get bumped around, I'd rather have an Aimpoint. It's just my preference. Actually, no, it's not my preference. It's a known fact in the industry that Aimpoint makes a better optic than pretty much everybody else for red dots. And people that say, oh, it's a big tube on the top of your gun, you've never used them. You've never used them, or you've only used them in video games or whatever. I, I would rather have an Aimpoint. I will trust my life on an Aimpoint long before I do pretty much any other red dot brand. Pot Drop and Roll says, also, if the departments around you require a 2-year degree, does it even pay to do 4? It can, especially if you need a job later on. A 4-year degree can set you apart. If you require a 2-year degree, depending on who's doing your interview, normally those requirements are pass-fail, though. So be aware, it's not like going to get you, not necessarily going to get you like extra points later on. Now, a 4-year degree can help you if you're going to go get another job later on down the road. Let's say you work for a small municipal department, you decide you want to go to the state police, they require a 4-year degree. A 4-year degree gives you a lot more options. And so if you have the time to get a 4-year degree before you get a job, I highly recommend it. No Knox says, DPMS has served me well for years as a rifle. Yeah, until the non-stake gas key falls off of it. Go in there and make sure that gas key is actually staked on. Everybody says they've had stuff for years and it's worked really well until it breaks. I've seen guys with the bolt heads break, just shatter inside the gun because they get something that hasn't been magnetic particle inspected. You know, like these things aren't inspected properly, they're not put together properly, and they fall apart. And a lot of these brands are hinky at the very least with their quality control. Matthew Lopez says, would you consider making a basic range training video? Lots of people do that. It doesn't make money on YouTube. It doesn't get lots of views on YouTube. I'm not in the industry and in the business of being the tactical cool guy that teaches you about guns. There's lots of people who want to do that and get their channel demonetized by YouTube and get people saying that they're gun crazy. It's a tool for the job. And there's lots of people out there that are giving you advice. Some of it's very poor advice. I've done a couple of videos about like scanning for threats and stuff that we did early on. And basically, if I have something to say that other people aren't saying, I will bring it to you. But I really don't. With firearms training, really has to be done in person. This stuff online firearms training, it's all garbage. It's all garbage. There's very little you can do without physically putting a gun in someone's hands and showing them how to do it. Let's scroll down. A lot of people have comments about the Canadian test. Troy M says, will a few speeding tickets hinder my ability to become a police officer? No, they really shouldn't unless you've got a lot of them or you got your license suspended. Carlton C says, thermal shift was a hoax. No. No. I know a lot of people try to, like, especially, here's what you have to understand about all these tactical community stuff, right? Somebody comes out with something and says, hey man, this is breaking in XYZ circumstances, and then everybody who bought that thing and spent $500 goes, oh, no, it's actually really good. No. Here's the problem. If something fails, we talked about this with body armor before, right? If something fails under ideal circumstances, when you introduce just one failure point, one problem that wasn't designed for, what do you think it's going to do in the real world when real things happen? I've seen EOTechs broken. I've seen them have problems. I've seen a lot of guys fire up their EOTech, but not. And they thought it was on, and then they go to shoot, and oh, my optic was off. Well, that doesn't work in real life. The aim point, turn it on, you leave it on. Just leave it on. And once a year, replace the batteries. What's the problem? Why would I want an EOTech? Why? Why would I want it? I know guys like it because they like the optic, they like the way it looks, they like that it looks less cluttered on their gun. That's all crap. Those are terrible reasons to want an optic. It's this big, bright ball thing in there, and it's too bright when you need it light and too heavy. No, I'm not playing with any of that. No. Cody Mullins says, I'm 33 now. I'm trying for a PD out of my reach. No, you totally get a job at 33. KXD Productions says, what made you start a YouTube channel? Nothing really made me do it. I was making little training videos at work for simple stuff like taking notes, detecting counterfeit currency, stuff like that. And somebody said you should upload them to YouTube and just store them there instead of storing them on a flash drive in your vest so you could find them easier. And I was like, oh, that's a cool idea. And people started watching them. And a couple of years later, now we're here. Alex Derlish says, do you recommend a job in federal law enforcement? How does it differ from local state police? So the feds can make you really good money and give you really good opportunities. So I'll give you an example. The problem is they can also give you problems, right? Like more money, more problems. Well, more opportunities, more problems. So a buddy of mine, same story, same agency, two guys that I know. Good friend of mine from back in the day, worked for Secret Service, right? He loved it. Single guy. Didn't have a whole lot of aspirations outside just doing law enforcement. Didn't want a family. Didn't want kids. Went into federal law enforcement. Did Secret Service. Loves it. Absolutely loves it. Flies all over the world. He's got pictures of him on Facebook and Instagram. You know, 2 Israeli cops, 1 under each arm. You know, in front of Air Force One with the badge and the gun out. Like, I'm in Israel today. Hey, look what we're doing. And he's having a blast. He's been having a blast his whole life with it. Absolutely loves it, right? Did, you know, protecting the president, did the front gate, did advanced details overseas and stuff like that, just having the time of his life. Another friend of mine, well, less a friend of mine, guy that I know, works for a local town as a local cop. He had a family and kids, and he worked for Secret Service. He actually drove the presidential limousine for, I want to say, Clinton. Anyway, he's like, I had a nice house. I made plenty of money. Had a nice house in Virginia that I was never in because I was always somewhere driving the presidential limousine. Couldn't see my wife, couldn't see my kids, didn't have vacations on holidays. I had to go, you know, if the president's going on vacation somewhere, I have to go with him. If he goes to Africa, I have to go with him. I have to go with him wherever he goes because I'm one of the drivers. And he said he hated it. And so he went into local law enforcement literally to get more time off. I was like, you get less time off than here? And he's like, yep. So that's the downside. And every federal agency is different like that. I'm not saying they're all like that, but you have to know what you're getting into. You know, if you work for Border Patrol, there's a high likelihood that you're going to work somewhere near a border. So if you live in the middle of the country, it might not be the best move for you if you don't want to move. But if you want to get out of your parents' house and get off and have adventures, then it's a great opportunity. And there's other jobs that, you know, they do all sorts of stuff with the feds, right? And there's some of their jobs are very similar to being a local cop. You work for, you know, the VA police. And some of their positions are like being a security guard, like the best paid security guard in the world, being the VA police or Amtrak police. And sometimes you can go to the VA or Amtrak and end up with like residences and having to go to domestics and stuff because you work at a big facility instead of a small facility. But you got to look into all that stuff yourself, and you have to look into it ahead of time. Talk to people who work for that agency and get the inside scoop on it. Because you don't want to be like, I want to be a U.S. Marshal, and then find out that you have to drive or fly all over the country moving prisoners around for a few years. Which a lot of people think like they're going to go work for the Marshal's office. They're going to be like going and finding fugitives, and they find out, oh, well, you know, most of them are doing prisoner transports. Zfiel says, I love when EOTechs are mounted backward. Yeah, that's just people not knowing. That's not a problem with the product. Like, there's not a problem with the product because people mount EOTechs backward. I don't have any issue with that. Marshall Paul says, I'm looking at railroad police. My uncle has done it for years. Yeah, you have Amtrak, which is like a federal job, and you have local railroad. And local railroads often pay very well. You get a railroad pension, which can be like 100% at 30 years, which is a really good pension. And they have really good benefits. It's something to look into. I know a lot of guys who went from local law enforcement, they did it for 15, 20 years and then went to the railroad. Because they were like, I'm sick of chasing idiots around for nickel bags. I'd rather work for the railroad and just babysit trains and do a call every once in a while and have to deal with a burglary to one of the trains than have to go to calls all day, every day. Cody Mullen says, one last question. Do you know the difference between the Federal Reserve Police and a local law? The Federal Reserve Police, they work for the Federal Reserve. They protect the Federal Reserve. And a local law, I don't know, you mean local law enforcement? Well, local law enforcement and working for the Federal Reserve Police is going to be very, very different. You're in the realm of like security police when you're talking about the Federal Reserve Police for most of their positions. So protecting a building, protecting the assets. That's my low battery alarm, so we got to get going. In local law enforcement, you're going to calls and dealing with people all day. And depending on where you're at, dealing with crackheads all day. The same thing with a big city, small city, high crime area, low crime area. You need to know what you're getting into before you get into it. Like, research that agency, Google them, you'd be amazed. Like, tell people before you move into a town, Google it, see what comes up. Before you go to an agency, Google that agency and see what comes up. See the type of stuff they get into. John Hicks says, what's your favorite off-duty holster? Do you prefer inside the waistband, outside the waistband, paddle, pancake, appendix, back? Right now I'm appendix carrying the Smith 360 PD from Harry's Holsters in their Icon revolver holster. I also really like, for semi-autos, I like Vetter holsters. They're light tuck because it allows you to change the angle of the holster. I actually got a video. I just got another holster from Vetter because the old one I had was for an HK USP Tactical. It's a little big. It concealed it well, but for an HK USP Tactical. So I just got one for my Glock 27 so I can start carrying it around again because I like the light tuck that much. So, all right, we're going to get going because my alarm that tells me that my battery is dying is popping up on me like crazy. So until next week, you guys be safe and take care of each other.